What happens when an Italian-inspired color palette meets peyote stitch? Well, today I'll show you while we create this Italian Getaway Travel Charm using a beginner-friendly approach to odd count peyote. So let's get started! So here's our palette that we had as an option in the June 2026 Creative Color Challenge. And then this is the project from that palette. We are going to make a purse tag, a luggage tag, a key fob, whatever you want to use this one for. So we're going to do the peyote stitch here. Now this is an actual odd count peyote stitch, but I'm going to show you how to do an even count and then make it easy by doing brick stitch on that last row to make it an odd count peyote stitch. So it is one of those things that if you wanted to, you can use it as a bracelet as well. It's just about long enough to be able to fit around the wrist. I do have extra jump rings that if you want to wear this around your wrist and put your keys on it or anything like that, then you can do that as well. My daughter gave me that option as well. She said a lot of kids her age like to wear these as bracelets, and then they hang their keys off of the keychain down here on the bottom. So you get these cute little charms along with it as well. You get this as we're traveling to Italy. I thought of pasta because I love Italian food. So you have this cute little charm that it is the farfalle pasta, I think is how you pronounce it. I probably am not pronouncing that correctly, but it looks like a piece of pasta. And then along with your pasta, you can always have a glass of wine. So this is a CZ inspired glass of wine charm here. And then you have just a little rhinestone crystal there in the center to make it look like it's a little, red wine that's going to go along with your pasta. Then along with that, I just thought just having a cute little small tassel was just something cute. So you'll get all of this in the kit portion of this project, as well as all of the beads. You'll also get, you also get the thread. We're going to be using dragon thread today, and it is the size 8 in white. And then you'll get the key fob here, and then you'll get plenty of the jump rings and some of the 8O seed beads here too. So go ahead and get your supplies out, ready to go, and then meet me back and we will get started on our peyote stitch. Alright, so now that I have all my beads all laid out here, I've got them in color order as per the instructions, the word chart that I include in all of this. So this is color A, which is the red, or the white. The silver line is B of red. The opaque red is C, the light colored green is going to be D, and then the dark colored green is going to be the E. And then I've got some of my 8O seed beads sitting up here at the top, which you can kind of barely see because they are the crystal seed beads. I just have a comfortable length of the white dragon thread on my needle, and then of course it's the the size 11 needle. Now, the other thing that I have available, that if you are one of those that have a nickel allergy, I did not know that Pony brand needles have nickel on them. And that's just to kind of help keep them smooth, to be able to go through the beads easier and things like that. I did not know that until recently. So now I do have available the Pony brand black needles that are nickel free. See, it says nickel, or not nickel plated up there at the top. So I do have these available in as an option in the kit. So if you do have a nickel allergy, then just let me know in my shop when you go to check out that you would need a nickel-free needle, and I will include that in the kit. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to show you how to do the straight portion of the peyote stitch first. Now again, we're just going to be doing even count peyote, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to add that odd count row. So we're going to start off right around in here, and then we're going to do one rotation of this, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to do the peaks of it. Because we'll do the first rotation, then we'll come back and do the peak, Then I'll show you how to do the side to add the extra odd count row, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to complete this portion up here, and then we'll put it all together after that. So that's my plan. Alright, so to start off peyote stitch the easy way, take one of your 8/0 seed beads, pull it down to the end of the thread until you have a comfortable amount to be able to hold on to. And it also needs to be an amount that you can thread your needle back on at the very end and then weave this back in. You're going to have to add thread on this project. So it's going to be one of those things that you're going to have to add thread. I think the kit comes with, oh, what was it? 10 yards. It comes with 10 yards of thread in it because I used a lot of thread in this project. Alright, so I just put my 8/0 seed bead down there as a stop bead on there. Now the first 2 rows, when you start off peyote stitch, you start off with doing the first 2 rows. So we need to pick up 14 of our white beads. 5, 6, 7, 8, sorry, you have to hear me count, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 went down that way. So just do a double check and make sure that you have 14 beads. So there's 5, there's 10, and there's 14. So go ahead and pull all these down to the end of the thread down here. And this is how I like to start off my peyote stitch, especially when I'm first starting off and I don't know what I'm not as proficient with peyote when I first started. I'm just going to move the first 2 beads, so that's the last 2 beads that I added on. So it's bead number 13 and bead number 14. I'm going to move those up and let them sit on top of my finger off to the side a little bit. So this next row we're going to be adding more white beads again. So I'm going to pick up one of my white beads, and with even count peyote, you always pick up a bead, you skip the first bead that you're coming out of, and you go through the second bead. So I have a bead on my needle and my thread over here on the right. I'm going to skip that first bead that's sitting on my left hand, and I'm going to go through the next one. And then when you pull that down, your beads should sit something similar to that. Now for your next one, you're going to skip a bead and go through the next one, so move 2 more beads up. So now it looks something similar to that. Pick up your next bead that you're going to add, which is another white one because we're adding another row of white. We're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to skip the next one in line and go through the one after that. And then when you pull that one down, then it should look like this. And see how it looks like it's going every other, like the beads that you're adding are stacking on top of the other beads. So then pull up 2 more beads, pick up a bead, skip the next one in line, trying to make sure this is focused, okay, skip the next one in line and go through the next one. So go through that second bead, so there is the next one. There we go. I had to give it a little bit of a tug in order for it to kind of sit right. So that's what it looks like at the moment. And you see how it's kind of curving a little bit? Perfectly fine. It'll straighten itself out after you get through another row or 2. So then start doing the next one again. Pull up the 2, pick up another one. There it goes. It's focusing now. Skip the next bead, go through the second one. This is typically how I start off my peyote stitch. Sometimes I use a stop bead down here that I'm showing you how to do now. Sometimes, and other times I don't use a stop bead. It kind of depends on how long my row is. If I'm only doing a peyote row of, like, you know, say 6 or something like that, something small, I usually don't start it with a stop bead. If I'm doing something that's a little bit longer, kind of like this one, then sometimes I'll use a stop bead for that. It just makes it easier to hold on to the beads so they're not flopping around everywhere. And then get the other two pulled up. We got two more to add. Then I'll show you how to add the next row. And then I'll let you complete this first section. So now we're down to our last bead to add. We've got two more beads sitting there before we get to the stop bead. So then we're going to skip the next one, go through that second bead. And then when you get done, your first row, excuse me, your first 3 rows actually, of peyote stitch should look something similar to that. And look how wonky it looks. It is perfectly fine. It is going to work itself out here shortly. So that is actually the first 3 rows of peyote. You've got row number 1, which is over here off to the left. Row number 2 is in the center, and row number 3 is what we just added. So now we're going to go to row number 4. In this first little portion, we're going to be adding 6 rows of white. So now we're on row number 4. Now it becomes really, really easy to be able to see where to put the beads. So we're starting off down here at the bottom. I added a bead to my needle. We're coming out of that bead right here. And see how this one's sticking up? You just now go through all the sticky outy beads. So you just add a bead, go through the sticky outy. And see how that one sits like that? Then you pick up another bead, go through the next sticky outy. And my tension is not the greatest at the moment. Excuse me. There we go. That looks a little better. Had to get my tension to fix a little bit. So now that looks a little bit better. Alright, so now you pick up another bead, go through the next sticky outy. So basically you're adding 7 beads for each of your rows. So you can count out 7 of your white beads, and that's typically what I do when we get to the portion where we're going to be adding other colors than just one solid color. I'll show you how I usually get that set up on my mat here in a minute. But I want to get done with row number 4 so you can see what this one looks like, and then I'll let you complete row number 5 and 6 the same way. And then I'll come back and show you how I set my beads out so I know what row I'm working on and so on. So now when I add bead number 7, I'm back up to the top again, and see how everything pretty much just straightened itself back out again. So now it's more of a straight line. So that's what the first 4 rows of peyote stitch, even count peyote stitch, should look like. So go ahead and get that part done and then complete the last 2 rows. So we're going to add another row of white and then a 6th row of white. So we're going to end up here at the top again. Meet me back and I'll show you that next couple of steps. Alright, when you get that done, then your peyote stitch should look something similar to this. So that's 6 rows of peyote that we've done in the white color. So now we're going to start adding some extra colors. So what I typically do when I have multiple colors that I'm working with like this, I'll go ahead and lay out that next row. So we're on row number 7. So the first amount that we're going to be adding is 3 of our white. So I'll put a pile of 3 whites there. 1 of the E's. So that's the next color combo. And then 3 more white. So then I'll pick up 3 more white and put that in a pile over here. So that way I know, alright, I need to go through these 3 beads, which somehow I lost a bead. There's only 2 whites sitting there. Okay. So 3 whites sitting here, then the 1 green, which is the E color, and then 3 more whites. So that way I know, alright, I'm going to start off with that, move to this one, move to this one. And then that's all you do. You just, oh, there's my white bead that went way over there. Alright, so then you add your 3 whites in the same fashion. It's just so much easier because now you have sticky outy beads. And you just go through the one that's sticking out. And from here on out, I will just have, once I get this row done, so you can kind of see what it looks like when you have another color sitting there. And from here on out, I will just have the next row of beads of what you need to use, and then a short little picture, just basically like a screenshot of what that row is going to look like when it's done. And I will meet you back at the very end. So then that would be what this row looks like when it's completed. So go ahead and follow your word chart until we get done with our first of our diamonds. And then after that, I'll come back and I'll show you how, or to talk to you about how to do the in-between portions, because it's slightly different in between these two compared to when we actually get to the end. There's going to be a different number of rows that we're going to end up doing. So it's a little bit different of a count. So go ahead and I will meet you back here in a few minutes once we get this done. Okay, so once you get done with your first 29 rows of your peyote stitch and the even count peyote, you should have something that looks similar to this. So now what we're going to end up doing is adding another little section of white, and then we're going to start this all over again. So we're essentially going to add this first section that we did up here at the top, down here on the bottom, except when you're continuing on and you're continuing this pattern, then we're going to have 7 rows of white in between our little hexagons here. So we'll have our hexagon, 7 rows of white, a hexagon, 7 rows of white, so on and so forth. When you get down to your end, after you have 6 of your hexagons done, then you're going to just do 6 rows of white, because we started off with 6 up here, then we do the hexagon. So in between the hexagons is going to be 7. At the very end, like the beginning and the very end of it, is going to be 6 rows. So that's what you do next. You just add 7 rows of your white. Once you get done with that and you can complete the whole key fob or bracelet or whatever you're going to end up using this for, meet me back and then I'll show you how to make a point with the remaining beads, and that will get us set up to where we can do the brick stitch around the edge up here to make it an odd count peyote, or at least make it look that way. So go ahead, do your 7 rows, meet me back, and I will show you the next step. Alright, so let's pretend that I have my whole key fob already done, or purse fob, or whatever you want to call this thing. A little bracelet thing, you know, our little project. Let's say that we have all 6 of these done. I am just going to do a little mini one so that way I'm not recording for forever today. So, because it's going to be the same pattern over and over again. So right here, I only did just the 6 rows rather than the 7. So if you were continuing on, like I said, you're going to be up here at this point because you're going to have a 7th row of white, and then you're going to start repeating your hexagon again. So let's just say that I have it all completed and everything. So I'm down to the very end. So this is just the 6 rows. Now we need to start making our little triangle portion. So the triangle portion, we're actually going to put our next bead right here in this one space right here. So it's going to be in between the 2 sticky outy beads right here. So we're not going to put a bead right here at the edge, but we're going to put our first one right here. So to get there, we're currently coming out of basically row number 5. I'm going to go back to row number 3. So I'm going back 1 row towards the left, and I'm going away from myself again. And what we want to do is we want to get our needle going through this bead right here in this direction. So now I'm on this bead right here. I want to go up and to the left 1 more bead. So we're going diagonal 1 bead right now. So we're right there. I hope my lighting is not too bad, that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm coming out of the top of this bead right here. I'm going to go to the right 1 bead. I'm going to go down that bead to the right, just like that. I'm trying to pause so hopefully that the lighting can adjust so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to go to the right 1 more bead, and that's the bead that we're coming out of, that we need to be coming out of and going in the correct direction in order to add our diagonal. And just make sure your thread doesn't get wrapped around any of the other beads. And then now we have our thread coming out of that bead right here. Now we complete this row like typical. So instead of adding 7 beads, we're only going to add 6 beads this time. So there's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and then number 6. Alright, so now we have that row completed to where you have a little bit of a diagonal here. Now remember, this is up here is where we will add our brick stitch in order to make it look like there is an even or an odd count peyote is what we ended up doing. But, you know, we're going to do it the easy way. So now our next row, we're going to have to be coming out right here. So I'm going to show you how to do the roundabout on this one, and then we're going to continue on both sides, decreasing by 1 on each side until we come to that point where we just have that one little section left over. And that's where our 8-ohs are going to come into play. Our little crystal 8-ohs that you can't see because it's not focusing on the crystal 8-oh. But there's crystal 8-ohs there. So let me show you how to do this one. And this is very similar. So if you needed to, you can always flip it this way, and it's in basically the same way that I showed you down here on the bottom, but I'll show it to you in this way because this is how I learned it. So we're coming out of the top of that one bead right here. We need to get our thread moved around to where we're coming out of this bead right here in this direction, beading towards ourselves. So to do that, we're going to move to the left one bead and go down that bead. Then we're going to go to the left and down one row, so this bead right here, and we're going to go down that one. Then we're going to start moving towards the right again. We're going to go to the right one bead, we're going to go up that bead, just like that. And then go to the right one more bead and go down that one, and we're set up for the next step. And now this one, we're only going to add 5 beads. And then once we get those 5 beads on, then we're going to do another turnaround, and then we're going to add 4, do a turnaround, then 3, do a turnaround, then 2. And then after that, we will meet back and I will show you how to add the 8-0. It's in a very similar fashion. It's just going to be a little bit of a wonkiness, so that's why I want to show somebody, so that way if they're new to doing this, then they'll know that they're doing it the correct way. So that's what it should look like after that. So go ahead and continue beading your little triangle until you get down just to the 2 last of your Delicas, and you have that 1 space remaining. And I'll meet you back. I'll show you what to do. Okay, so now we're down to where we have the last 2 Delicas that I just added, and I'm coming out of this top Delica towards myself. The thread's coming towards myself, so I can add my 8-0. So go ahead and pick up one of your crystal 8-0s and do just that. Just put that into that space. Now your 8-0 is going to be a little bit bigger than the space that is there. So everything is going to buckle just ever so slightly. See how it's kind of buckling towards me a little bit? It's going to do that, and that's perfectly fine. Now on this is where our jump rings are going to attach to. It's going to be the 8-0s on either side, because we're going to do a point over here on this side too. So with that being the case, we want to have at least 2 thread paths through this 8-0. So we're going to do another turnaround. So I want to be going through this 8-0 going this direction. So to do that, we need to go down 1 bead. So we're going to go down the bead to the left. So I'm just going down one bead diagonally to the left. And then I got to get myself oriented and see how to get myself turned back around. Because we go up, then down, then up. Yep, same thing. Okay, so we're coming out of this bead right here, which is the second from the 8-0. We're going to go to the left 1 bead, up, going up toward, or beading away from ourselves. So the left 1 bead. Then we're going to go to the left and up 1 row. So it's very similar to what we were doing just a minute ago with all the other turnarounds. Now some of these beads have a lot of thread through them, so you just have to be very careful with them. If your needle is not going through that bead, then just move 1 more bead over. So then go up and then down. So you just have to kind of follow your thread paths and everything until you get to a bead that you can go into. Because this one is actually, there we go, a little tight. So we're going to, that was to the left and up 1 row. So you just have to be careful with it because you don't want to break a bead. Then we're going to go to the right, staying in the same row, like that. And then when we go to the right 1 more time, we're coming out of that Delica that is sitting directly next to the 8-0. Now if you can get through the 8-0 at the same time, then that's fine. Just kind of wiggle your needle through, and then I'm coming through both that Delica and that 8-0. And then that puts your 8-0 on. So there is that section. now I'm going to get you set up to where we can start doing the brick stitch around this side to make it look like that we've done an odd count peyote. So this is part of the easy part, is we want to get all the way up through these beads right here, but then we want to be coming out of this bead right here. So we're not going to go through every single one of these beads on this diagonal. We're going to stop at, let's see, I think it's here. And then you can go down, then up and up. Yep. Or you can go here. Yeah, let's stop at this one right here. We're going to stop at coming out of this one right here. So we're going to go through those diagonals. And notice how I just kind of sat there and thought, all right, how can I weave myself through these beads in a way to where I am coming out of the bead that I want to be coming out of in the direction that I want to be coming out of. And there's multiple ways of doing this. You can stop at this bead right here, and then you could do something similar to what I'm going to do here in a second. You could stop at one of the other beads. You can completely start right here and go back and forth and then just go straight up. You know, there's so many different ways of doing this, but we'll do it this way for people that are not as familiar with using peyote stitch and how to go through it and everything. So I'm coming out of that second to last bead in the little point portion. So remember that we need to be coming out of this bead in this direction. So I'm going to go directly to the left and go down that bead to the left, just like that. I'm going to go to the left one more time. I'm going to go up the bead to the left, just like that. Then I'm going to go up and to the right, and then that is the bead that we need to be coming out of to start our brick stitch. So now we're going to do brick stitch all the way across. Now, of course, yours is going to be longer than this, unless you choose to do something tiny like this. Yours is probably going to be longer. So what you want to do, whenever you start with brick stitch, you always want to start with 2 beads. You always have 2 beads in that first stitch of the brick stitch. So we're going to pick up 2 of our white Delicas. Now we're going to look for that thread bridge, that thread bridge in between these 2 beads. So the bead over here off to this side of the needle, and then the bead over here on this side of the needle. So we're going to go underneath that thread bridge. I always try to call it a bread thridge. Then we're going to pull the beads down to the product. Then we're going to go back up through the bead, the second bead that we added. So in this case, it's going to be the bead on the left. Now, if you're left-handed, you're probably doing this the opposite way. And when you pull it down tight, it now looks like you've done an odd count peyote. Now this is how you add every single one down to the end of the row down here. You're going to pick up 1 bead, go to the next thread bridge in between the next 2 beads, go underneath that, just like that. Let the bead sit there, and then go back up through the bead that you just added, and then give it a nice little tug, and you got the next one added. Now, how many rows do you go to make sure that you're going to end up adding the correct amount over here? Meaning, you know, where do you stop, basically? So that is going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3. I think it is right here is where we stop. So I don't know that for sure just by looking at it. So I'm going to get myself down here to the end, and then I will show you where you're going to end up being, because I'm pretty sure I add this one right here. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to make sure I'm correct, and then I'll come back and I'll say, okay, yes, this is correct, or you need to stop at some other place. But I'm almost pretty certain this is going to be where our last one is going to sit, is in between those last 2 beads right there. So I'll finish that, I'll come back and I'll show you how to do, where to stop, and then how to start the triangle on the other side. Be back in just a moment. Alright, so I was correct. You actually ended up adding that last bead, brick stitch right here in between these two beads right in here. So that way this row, which is row number 2, is where this row is over here on this side, equivalent wise. And I am shaking. Wow. Okay. So that's where we're going to start. Now, what we want to do is we want to start the diagonal portion over here on this side. So we want to be coming out of this bead right here going in this direction. So to make this even easier, flip it in your hands. Just like that. And then now you're set up in the exact fashion that you were over here on this side. You're just on the opposite side of your piece. So we want to be coming out of this bead going in that direction. So we're going to go to the left one and go up that bead. And go to the left into the diagonal one. And go up that bead. Now we're going to start going to the right. Go to the right one bead and go down it. And then we're going to go to the right one more bead again and go up that one. And then that is where it gets you set up to start your diagonal, or your decrease basically. So this is where we're going to add 6 beads. And then after that, everything else is the same as what we did with the other side already, and adding our little triangle portion and the 8/0 seed bead. So that's number 5 and then number 6. So you would continue this on until you get your other 8/0 seed bead already added over here. Now the only difference is that after all of this is done, then you'll just have to weave in and out, similar to what we're doing as far as getting ourselves turned around to where we can come out of the beads in the correct way. You want to do that in a similar way to tie off your thread. So just go in and out, up and down, and weave, like basically make figure 8s if you wanted to, through a couple of the seed beads and then tie it off. I would suggest to keep the white thread with the white beads and try not to get into the colored beads over here. If you get into the colored beads, perfectly fine. You just may end up seeing a little bit of your white thread. Now, of course, your thread is so thin, people are probably not going to notice that, but if that's something that bothers you, then just stay within the white beads and you won't see it as much. Then take your starter thread here, take your stop bead off. You can usually just slide these guys off pretty easily. Put your needle on the end of this guy, and then do the same thing with this one, and then burn that off. So go ahead and get that part completed, and then I'll show you how to complete the rest of your key fob, purse fob, keychain, whatever you want to call it. Meet you back in a moment. Okay, so now we're down to our finishing stages. Now see how well this looks once you get it all said and done and everything. So what we're going to end up doing is folding this in half, and then that's what's going to make it look like it's a little bit smaller. So you don't have to do all 6. If you wanted to do just 4, then it would look something like that in size. It can be a lot smaller than that. And you might even have enough beads to where you can add another one. You can add a 7th one and then have one of these hanging out as kind of like a half of a one sitting down there. You can put these closer together. You don't have to have the 6 or 7 rows of white in between. You can have your hexagons touching each other. That would make it a different size also. And then the other thing that I'm adding is that I went ahead and I added all of the jump rings to my charms right away, so that way you're not watching me add jump rings like crazy. So I added one of the, at least one large, I added one large of the jump rings to each of my charms here, and I added 3 to the little lobster clip right there. So I added 3 on that one, 1 to each of these. Now your pasta and your wine glass charm, they each come with a smaller jump ring on there also. So there's a smaller jump ring, and then I added the larger jump ring. And then this one is the same. It already comes with a small jump ring, and then I added the larger jump ring. So just to give you a heads up what's going on with that. And you'll have a total of 8 of the large jump rings and then 8 of these smaller jump rings also. And these are different than the ones that came on those 2 charms. Those 2 charms actually came with those. So the smaller jump rings and the larger ones, just use it as a combination of however you want to make this, as long as you want. Oh, the one thing I wanted to show you, I was talking about it being a bracelet. See how it fits almost exactly perfectly for a nice little bracelet. So if you wanted to make this a bracelet instead, or do something similar to what my daughter had suggested, is to make it long enough to where you can put it over your wrist and everything, then those extra jump rings should help you out with that. Alright, so what we're going to end up doing, we're going to take the small jump rings. These are a little bit thinner than the larger ones. The larger ones may still fit through those 8-ohs, but it may be a little difficult. So that's one reason why I gave you some smaller jump rings. So this, just open it up, slide it through that 8-oh, and it should go in there pretty easily, because like I said, these are a little bit thinner. And then we're going to close that up, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Oops. Running into stuff over here. Open up this guy. I love these charms that I found. These are actually charms that I found off of an Etsy site. Someone's Etsy. They make charms here in the States and sell them. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I like this charm, and then I liked the other one, and I couldn't decide between the two, so I went ahead and got both. So I went a little over budget with that, with the charm portion of this kit, but it's okay. I still think those guys are really, really cute, and I couldn't decide between the two. Alright, so now that we have both of the jump rings on this side, we're going to fold it in half, and then we're going to add one more jump ring. Now, of course, my jump ring is actually already attached to all the other ones right here, but we're going to add one of the nice large jump rings. And then this large jump ring is what is going to be attaching to the rest of your lobster, basically. So let me open this guy up. And then we're going to go straight through both of these small jump rings. There's a lot of rain in the area, and that's why my watch is dinging right now. It's telling me there's lightning in the area. And then close that guy up. And of course it's like completely sunny outside my window right now, but there's a lot of thunderstorms in the area. I'm going to make that closed up just a little bit better. I like to try to get my jump rings to touch each other, to have each side touch. I'm using my new pliers. I got a new set of pliers the other day because my other ones were just hurting my hands too much. So that's what it looks like so far. And then this is where you just have to decide, okay, so how am I going to add these two and my charms to this itself? I think what I'm going to end up doing is actually adding the longest one first. So I think I'm going to add the pasta one first. Then I'm going to add the wine glass, and then I'm going to end up with the tassel. So I'm going to open up the pasta one first. And then I'm going to add this to, let's see, that second one. Let me think about this. I want it to sit, let's see, this is sitting, this is all twisted. That's why it's not sitting right. There we go. Alright, so I want this to sit down further, or no, I think I want to sit it right there. Okay, so I'm going to attach it to the jump ring that is attached to the lobster clasp, this swivel clasp. So I'm going to attach it just like that. And I'm going to put that one on first. Let me see if I can use it this way. Maybe they'll close a little easier if I just use it this way. Oh, that was a little easier, yeah. Not sure sure if you saw that or not. But... Alright, so now my pasta is sitting there. And then I'm going to add my wine glass in the same way, just making sure that my wine glass is facing towards me, because there is a front and the back. So there's the front of it with all the crystals and everything, and then there's the back of it. So I want to make sure that the front is facing towards me. Whoops. Maybe that's why it's hard to use this. Okay. Now, when I add this next one, I want to make sure that I'm adding this next one in front of, come on, focus, there we go, in front of the pasta. So this jump ring is going to go in front of that pasta jump ring. Like that. And then I'll do the tassel in the same way. And the tassel I just added just to kind of give it a little bit more color. And it was kind of cute. It was tiny. Cute little tiny little guy. And then the tassel I will put in front of the wine glass on that same jump ring. Now this is where that can vary too. You can put these on different jump rings, and you can vary your amount of jump rings. You can add more jump rings if you wanted to. I'm just trying to kind of keep it simple as far as the jump rings are concerned and everything and how it looks. So there is your little key fob, purse fob, luggage fob, luggage tag. You can add it to that. You can put it on your phone if you wanted to, if you have like a clip that you can use on your phone. All sorts of different things that you can do with this. But there is our little project for the Italian Getaway. That's our finished Italian Getaway Travel Charm. Whether you attach it to a purse, project bag, planner, or even your luggage, I hope this project inspires a little creativity and adventure. If you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to check the links below for information about available supplies, kits, and collection items inspired by this project. I'd love to know what colors or destination you would choose for your own travel-inspired charm, so let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future tutorials, collection reveals, and creative color challenge projects. I'll see you next time to make a new artistic creation together.